Showtime.
Bro, Chris Paul has better handles than AI.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Brand new episode here of the Young Bulls podcast. Yes, I know it has been a minute. It has been a minute. I think the last episode that we did of the Young Bulls podcast was back in May, probably one of the final days of May, heading into the Game 6 against the Pacers and not the Thunder, Pacers and the Knicks. It's currently been less than a month, but it's been like 3 weeks probably. I had to take a break from doing the podcast, honestly. I was going nonstop from, I believe, end of school to up to that point. And, just to ensure that I'm not getting any burnout from it, I had to take a break from it. So, yes, I already know I missed probably one of the best finals that I've watched in recent memory. I know that we have a lot of catching up to do as far as things that have happened. I know there's been a lot of World War III talk and everything like that, but better late than never. So again, if you guys don't remember who I am, my name's Dinari. Feels good to be back for another episode. Again, Young Bulls Podcast is sponsored by Legacy Jersey Shops, your one-stop shop for every soccer jersey. If you want a nice quality soccer jersey, Legacy Jersey Shop is the place to go get one. Make sure you guys go check out their website, Legacy Jersey Shop. Go follow them on Instagram at Legacy Jersey Shop. And tell them that Dinari from Young Bulls Podcast sent you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get going, man. Let's go ahead and get going. Now, obviously, this past weekend, we saw the crowning of a new champion in the NBA. Probably one of the best single seasons that we have seen from a player in a minute. And it's SGA. SGA, as you know, was MVP this year. He was scoring champ this year. He was a all-star. And now we can add finals MVP and NBA champion to the list as the Oklahoma City Thunder dismantled the Indiana Pacers in 7 games in front of their own crowd. And a game in which, dare I say, if Haliburton did not get injured in the first couple of minutes, would have went completely different. It was a good game watching. Let's start off with that. It was a great game to watch. It was really an exciting game throughout. I will say, though, that the vibe of the Pacers, especially after Haliburton went down, was completely, just of shock. I remember just watching it in like real time and seeing Haliburton go down, immediately start crying and everything like that, and seeing him just on the ground, just banging the floor, and it sucks. I mean, you obviously don't want to see an injury happen, but it's so hard to look at this ring and be like, oh, if Haliburton didn't go down, will we still be calling OKC the champions? So, it's one of those certain situations. And then obviously with Haliburton going down, that meant other players had to step up. One player in particular I thought was going to really step up was Siakam. He didn't really have that going for him. The player that I didn't expect to step up, who did actually, was TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell was virtually unstoppable in that second half and almost willed them to come back into the game. But even when it looked like they were getting close, the Thunder continued to keep pulling away and bring home the first championship in franchise history for Oklahoma City since moving to Oklahoma City. So it's been a long time coming for them. And for SGA to do this, and I believe his 4th year with the team, it's very impressive. People are already calling him the greatest Thunder of all time. Me personally, I feel like that's mostly recency bias because I feel like you just can't go over the impact that Russell Westbrook, and I know he left, but even Kevin Durant has had on this organization. But I will say that Shea winning the championship does help, but I still don't have him over Russ. That's me. That's just me. But to each his own, I guess. If you want to debate about who is the greatest Thunder of all time, does this championship make Shea the greatest Thunder of all time? By all means, we can. But I still believe that title goes to Russell Westbrook because prime Russell Westbrook, let alone prime Oklahoma City Thunder Russell Westbrook, was a problem. And arguably, even on a team without Kevin Durant, without, with supporting players such as Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, he still was able to find a way to, granted, they didn't go to a conference finals or anything, but he had a great run as a Thunder. So I know the fans love him. I know the fans really got behind Russ, and he was really loyal until he couldn't really be loyal anymore. So I still see no reason why he isn't. When you think of the Thunder, you think of Russell Westbrook. That's him. Or you think of KD. But, to each their own. To each their own. But back to the Thunder of this year, man. Obviously, they had the best record in the league. They were winning games. They went on, crazy long win streaks. They were virtually unstoppable at home. To see a team do this, and to see a team do this with the level of turnaround time and rebuilding time that the Thunder have done this with, is virtually impressive. It's a testament to their front office. Shout out to Sam Presti. And it's a testament to all those years that many people laughed at the Thunder. To see where they are now is very impressive. To put it in layman's terms, it's so wild because obviously in our most recent episode, we had Aiden on here, who's been a friend, who's been a friend of the show, who's been on an episode in the past. And he talked about the finals, and he talked about what this championship would mean to the city, what this championship would mean to him. Aiden was at Game 7. He was at Game 7 watching the game in Oklahoma City. He got tickets. He got to the game and everything like that. When people ask what this championship means, this dude, Aiden, was crying. He was crying. He was crying about them winning the championship. Aiden sat through years of watching. I'm just going to start naming, Pokuševski play for the Thunder. Muscala. Josh Giddey. I'm trying to think of some other just players who played for the Thunder over the years. Just they were throwing out just freighter rosters. They were throwing out players who literally, hold on. Their starting five a couple of years back, just to put this in perspective, was Pokuševski, Moses Brown, Theo Maledon, Kenrick Williams, and Svi Mikhailuk. That was their starting five a couple of years back, man. They have just say that the Thunder have had some tough times is an understatement. And people forget about the drop-off that this team had after Russ left, after, and everything like that. So to see them be able to take a team that had that starting five and retool that whole thing in the span of maybe 4 to 5 years to make themselves a contender again is impressive. And to let alone win a championship on top of that as well, it's amazing. But it's just one of those things, man. It's a great feeling to see the Thunder be on top of the NBA world. Like I said before, I talked to Aiden about it. He said that he was, very happy, almost emotional about it because they've been through a lot. And then on the other hand, I have friends like Trey. Like I used to talk to Trey, talk trash to Trey all the time because Trey was a Thunder fan. Obviously, he was there since the beginning. And I used to say to him, you guys will never win a championship, and you guys are in the same boat as us. You guys haven't won a ring since, I've been alive and all this stuff. First thing that Trey did after they won the championship was call me and basically say to me, you can't make those jokes no more. We're the champs. We're the champs now. Have fun watching your team lose in the second round for the next couple of years. Have fun getting VJ Edgecombe in the draft. Hopefully. But, it's just one of those things. When you see a team that you've been riding with for the longest time, and they finally get on top of that basketball world and they win themselves a championship, it's one of the most amazing feelings in the world. And not to take anything away from Oklahoma City because, they did it. But even, we're Pacers fans. The Pacers arguably they probably have one of the best, just as a fan's perspective. Being a fan of the Pacers these past 2 years has probably been a fever dream for Pacers fans to just sit there and just watch their team just continue to win. Yes, next year they will have a drop-off. That's just because, just off the rip of Haliburton not being able to play next year because he's going to be injured and out for the season. But to see this team do this much winning in these 2 years alone has, for a fan and for somebody who, was from Indiana, that's more than enough. I said this at the beginning of the playoffs. I said this during each round of the Pacers advance to. Nobody expected the Pacers to do this. And to take a team like OKC, which, mind you, again, had the best record in the league, to 7 games at that, is virtually impressive to do. And it just shows how much fight and grit this team had. And again, I can't stop talking about this team without saying that if Haliburton played that whole game, who knows what could have happened. When Haliburton went down, the whole soul and vibe of the Pacers team went down with it. The energy, everything. It's like a chicken getting his head cut off. It's just willy-nilly, just running around aimlessly. And that's what it felt like watching the Pacers after Haliburton went down. There's literally nothing they could do. Even when it looked like they were getting close in the game, they still found a way to not do that. They found virtually no way to get back into the game, and because of that, they're on the receiving end. And just seeing, the players come back in the locker room and Haliburton with holding the crutches and, hugging the players and, just applauding them for the fight that they had and just seeing, players tear up and stuff, it hurt. You almost felt bad. Because again, injuries suck. Seeing injuries happen in the playoffs, but especially on that stage, it's not cool. It's not ideal. It sucks. Especially with the chance of bringing Larry O'Brien home to your city. It's one of the worst feelings in the world. But back to Shea, man. There was some discourse, I believe, yesterday. I don't know if it was yesterday or it was over this course of just Sunday bleeding into Monday. And I saw this on a podcast page. It was with this guy named Miles Johnson, Real Talk with MJ on Instagram. And he said that, and I just want to make sure I'm looking at this right because last thing I want to do is misquote. Let's see. Miles Johnson, on the podcast, he said that Shea has more killer than LeBron James. Actually, I'm just going to play the clip.
He got more killer than LeBron James. For sure. If Shea was on that Miami Heat team in 2011, they're beating Dirk. Because I know for a fact Shea's not going to fold like LeBron did. He not going to fold, bruh. The thing with LeBron James, he needed somebody else to teach him how to win. He needed Dwayne Wade to teach him how to win. With Shea, who's teaching him how to win in terms of a guy that's on his level? J-Dub ain't on his level. J-Dub don't know how to win. Only guy you could say is Alex Caruso, a role player. But you're talking about folks that like Shea really came into the league, came into OKC and said, this is mine. And yes, it's on the table for the Oklahoma City Thunder to be a dynasty.
That was a clip from Real Talk with MJ. That's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. Shout out to him and everything like that. Hopefully, somewhere in the future, we can find a way to collab on an episode. But I saw that clip yesterday, and I was impartial with it, honestly. I mean, look, I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, looking back at that finals in general and hearing what he had to say, I disagree with that statement. I feel like LeBron in Miami, that first time of that, crack at the NBA Finals in Miami, LeBron did not come to play. He did not perform well in that series at all. I believe that in that finals, LeBron averaged 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists in that whole series. His game high in that series was that was game 1 where he had 24-9. His worst game in that series was game 4 where he had 8 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. LeBron in that series, again, like I just said, did not perform well. But leading up to LeBron reaching that NBA Finals, LeBron had only gone to the Finals one other time in his whole career. And that one other time was when he took a young Cavs team to the NBA Finals back in 2007. They got swept, but he took them there. I feel like when we talk about Shea and what he did this year, it was impressive. He did his thing. Yes, I'll give him the props on that. But to sit up there and say that I would take Shea playing for that Heat team back in the day against a team such as the Mavericks, who beat the Thunder and the Lakers in that playoffs, I feel like it's a crazy statement to say. He said in that clip that no one, basically taught Shea how to win. When he came to OKC, he said, this is mine. That's what he said. If I'm not mistaken, the person who gave him that gave Shea Gilgeous-Alexander the blueprint to win in a city such as Oklahoma City was none other than the journeyman himself, one of the best point guards, probably arguably the best point guard in CP3. And I feel like that people look over that fact. Chris Paul came to that Oklahoma City team in the middle of their rebuilding in their rebuild eras. And that team had little to no chance of making the playoffs when Chris Paul got there. People sent him there to die. That was the whole reason for the trade. The trade wasn't to get the team to be better. The team was there to send some veteran experience to the Thunder to just show them, how they could win, how they could do sort of things like that. Have fun, nothing crazy. When the playoffs started, when the NBA season resumed after COVID, the Thunder were in that playoffs. The Thunder went to 7 games against the Houston Rockets. They lost, but they pushed them to 7 games. CP3 was probably one of the main reasons that SGA was able to take that leap into being a player that we know and love today. SGA has always been a dog. He's always been a dog. Even when he was on the Clippers, even coming off the bench, he was nice. When he came to OKC, Chris Paul unlocked something. And now he's the player that we know and love today. That's the reason why Chris Paul was at SGA's MVP commencement speech. That's why CP3 was at the presentation in the playoffs this year. That's why he was there. You know how SGA feels about Chris Paul. So I feel like saying that no one basically taught SGA how to win, how to do sort of things, I feel like that statement is just, I just don't know. I don't know. And I still, when I look back at, at that 2011 finals, and I would rather have Shea than Bron. Come on, man. Come on. Come on, man. I understand that we want to, show props to a player today for doing what he did. But by doing that, we do not have to go back and show, just say something that's just so wild to even just say. Like, SGA had a solid season, yes. He did a lot, yes. But to sit up there and say that I would much rather have SGA on the 2011 Heat team than LeBron James himself, arguably one of the greatest players, a player who literally... No, I just can't, man. I can't. Because even when you look at just how SGA plays and everything like that, the calls that SGA would be getting in today's game, now in 2025, it's not the same calls he would be getting back in 2011. Yes, SGA will still be able to score. Yes, he'll still be able to be a threat on the court. Yes, I understand that. But, come on. SGA is not as physical as LeBron is. Yes, SGA plays defense, but the level of gravity that Bron had on the floor is arguably, especially in 2011, is arguably way more impactful than the gravity that Shea has now. And I'm willing to argue that with anybody. So to sit up here and say that, I need me a player that won't fold, I'll take SGA in 2011 versus taking Bron at that point in time against the Mavericks in that finals, it's crazy. It's crazy. It's wild to me. It's wild to me. But then again, that's an opinion. And all you can do with opinions is respect them. You get what I'm saying? Respect them and just keep it pushing. So, maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I just need to hear it come from him. But I'll be so honored to just have him on the show to just talk about this with him, because I really just wanted to know, like, what was just going through his head when he was saying that. Because I thought it was an interesting statement to make, and I honestly just want to hear more about it. It's no diss, none of that. I just actually wanted to just hear his rationale for the statement about SGA and Bron and everything like that. Because I don't know, I just felt like it was a funny statement to make. But shout out again to Real Talk. Shout out again to the podcast, man. Shout out to what they're doing over there. Huge fan, huge supporter. Wish you guys continued success and everything like that. But moving on. We talked about the Thunder. We talked about their success. We talked about their NBA championship. Now it's time for us to play the somber, it's hard to say goodbye song to the Indiana Pacers, man. Eastern Conference champs First finals appearance in over 20 years. Arguably one of the craziest playoff runs I've ever seen. Probably going to come down as one of the most memorable playoff runs we see in my generation. And just, again, I know he got injured, but shout out again to Tyrese Haliburton, man. People heading into this season, or I believe at the midway point, I forgot either or. They rated Haliburton as one of the most overrated players in the league. People said that he wasn't like that and everything, and that he wasn't, somebody to really just step up in big moments. And in this playoff run alone, Haliburton has had, I believe, 5 go-ahead shots. The Pacers team has arguably had one of the, craziest comebacks on multiple occasions that we've seen. And he has played on a level that we have never seen before. And just take over in games in which it's he's killed fan bases. He's killed fan bases. And it's wild, man. It's actually wild just looking back on it, because it's the amount of times that I've covered Haliburton throughout this whole playoffs, since this podcast has started, I feel like I've covered Haliburton and the Pacers more than I've covered other teams. And that's just in this playoffs alone. So arguably he's doing something right if I'm getting that much, just conversation or just topics on him in general. But, that Pacers team, players such as TJ McConnell stepping up, Aaron Nesmith, his success in the playoffs, Siakam doing what he's been doing in the playoffs and everything like that. Obi Toppin, who, mind you, when he was in New York, all I remember him doing was the dunk contest and doing a lot of dunks and everything like that. But people forget that Obi Toppin was an A-10 player of the year when he was at Dayton. That we were robbed of seeing talent like him in the tournament back in 2020. Obi Toppin was hooping in this playoffs. Players such as Benedict Mathurin, who all season was trying to find a way to carve himself into the rotation, to, show himself and to step up, had solid games throughout this whole playoff run. It seemed like with this Pacers team, they're literally, even when it looked like there was no pulse, there was still a slight pulse. And that's all they needed. They found ways to get back into games. They found ways to blow teams out. And they truly made Indiana a place where they simply don't lose. The Indiana Pacers had an 8-3 record at home in the playoffs this year. 8-3. They had an 8-3 record at home in the playoffs this year. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, their only 3 losses at home in this year's playoffs have both come in, game 3? 2 of them came in game 3, and then 1 came in game 4. But, again, it just goes to show just how much success and just energy this team brought to the city. The amount of times I saw Reggie Miller on my TV, just watching the games at Gainsbridge House was crazy to me. Seeing people like Ron Artest and, just seeing how this whole city got behind the Pacers was just very impressive. There was a statement that Rick Carlisle made after they won the Eastern Conference, finals, that said that in 49 states, it's basketball, but this is Indiana. And they really took that quote to heart, because it just felt different playing in Indiana. It felt different playing there. It truly felt like a madhouse, you know? So, although they didn't, capture the Larry O'Brien, or although they didn't win a championship, I feel like this season for Indiana was very much a success. And honestly, I feel like it reminds me of the Commanders and their playoff run. As the Commanders, no one expected them to get as far as they did, and they got to the conference championship. Although they lost to the Eagles, I mean, it was expected, but they went on a deep run. And people are just waiting to see what happens next for them. So, for the Pacers fans out there, I wouldn't even hold your head down. It sucks losing in Game 7, I know. But you guys will probably be back. And Haliburton is going to come back, hopefully better than ever. And next time around, you guys finish the job. But, again, I would be remiss to talking about the NBA Finals if I couldn't talk about just how amazing this Pacers playoff run has been for fans to just watch. The finals, let's really talk about it. Over the course of the past couple of years, the NBA Finals it's been good basketball, but I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit up here and say that every finals, over the past couple of years, I've tuned into. Last year with the Mavericks and the Celtics, that series was rough to watch. It was rough to watch. Not because it was bad basketball being displayed, but you had one team that was dominant all season versus a team that, they had Luka and Kyrie, but outside of that, it was rough. It was rough. And if I'm not mistaken, Boston won that in 5. Then the year before that, you had the Nuggets, who, again, dominant team all season. They pretty much carving teams all throughout the playoffs, just dominant all throughout the playoffs, versus a Heat team who was an 8th seed in that year's playoffs. They didn't, no one expected them to get that far. They had a crazy run, but they get dispatched by the Nuggets in the championship. I believe the Nuggets, I don't think they swept them, but I believe they won in 5. It's one of the two. And then the year before that, obviously, we had I believe it was the Warriors. Let's see. Yep. So before that, we had the Warriors Celtics series. I tuned into that one. That was a good series to watch. Obviously seeing the Warriors come back and be back on top. Curry's, historic, Game 5 performance, and then just putting his team on his back. But I'm not going to lie, the 2-year period between the Warriors championship and the OKC winning this year, that was rough basketball to watch, man. It was rough basketball to watch. There's a lot of, I don't know, just looking at the finals viewership, it was tough. People found a way, even before the series started, to say, oh, it's not going to be good basketball, no one's going to tune in, it's going to be rough to watch, everything like that, yada, 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 right? And truth of the matter is guess nobody tuned in. It's nobody tuned in. But to see this series go to 7, to see this series have the level of viewership it had, to see this series have everything you want in a playoff series. You had great basketball. You had people getting into fights, people arguing, fan bases going at it. It felt like, I was watching just great hoops, man. That's all you want for an NBA Finals, man. You want it to feel like a finals. Now, as far as presentation, everything, then bringing back the starting lineups before the games, it felt like I was watching the, old school NBA Finals, back in the day, seeing the Heat and the Spurs play and everything like that. So I thought that was fun. People will continue to ask about the Larry O'Brien being on the court for the courts for the NBA Finals and everything like that. I agree. I feel like, you see how the courts are changed for the in-season tournament. You see how, every team has their own custom court. It would be nice to have that sort of element back for the NBA Finals. I remember when I was little, they used to have the Larry O'Brien at center court, and they had the team over and everything. And they'll have like this whole giant presentation to make it feel like it was the finals, like the final games. Like, you get what I'm saying? So to see that on the court, it would be nice. I feel like there's some things that the NBA could do to make it feel more grand than what it already feels like. Because I'm not going to lie, in the past couple of years, it's been lacking. Like, just back in 2022, they brought back the old finals logo. So, I just want to see things like that happen again with the finals and everything to make it feel like it's that sort of thing. But, seeing a series like the Pacers and the Thunder go to 7, seeing the level of basketball and the level of just great hoops being displayed, I feel like it's a start and it's a turn in the right direction for an NBA Finals that, honestly, looking back at the past 2 years, has been a tough watch. So hopefully next year we get the same exact thing. Hopefully next year we get some more teams that we don't usually see in the finals play, because maybe that was part of it too. I talked back about this, a couple of times in recent podcast episodes, but even hearing about, the 4 teams that were in the conference finals and the 4 teams that were left in this year's, playoffs, being small market teams, being teams that have never competed for a championship, never won a championship before, being the last team standing, I feel like that just added more excitement to it. And just having that be the case was just something that brought just more viewership and just more prestige to what we were watching. Because even looking at this finals, you knew that one fan base was going to change forever. Like, the Thunder, like, no matter 50, 90, 100 years down the line from now, the Thunder are going to be remembered as NBA champions. The drought is done. Like, they could not win a title for like another 90 years. They can at least say they have a championship now. So I guess just the idea of just small market teams getting love like that on the big stage was just another thing that just really brought the finals home this year. And granted, I mean, the Denver a couple years back when they won the championship, it was exciting, but I guess like even just watching that, it didn't feel like a championship game happening. Then again, I'm not a Nuggets fan, so I wouldn't know, but I guess seeing a team like Oklahoma City, who before last year we hadn't seen in the playoffs in like years, who have gone through a crazy rebuilding time and has seen, again, like I said, the starting 5 earlier, tons of players roll through Oklahoma City to then get traded or get released to make room for the team that we know and love now. Yeah, maybe just the fact that we hadn't seen them in a minute and they came back and started winning. So it's just one of those things. And I also feel like, too, just as a viewer of NBA, I feel like that the same way that we show love to big market teams like the Lakers and the Clippers and the Celtics and the Knicks, trying to name some more big market teams, or just like great teams in general, I feel like as far as like viewership and everything like that, you look at NBA Wednesday or Friday games, like hopefully next year there's going to be more love to teams that are like small market, like Cleveland and OKC and teams like that. The amount of times that I saw on ESPN during this whole playoffs see teams like the Lakers get covered more than I've seen teams like the Pacers get covered, it's nuts to me. The amount of times that I've seen on First Take in general, just teams such as the Lakers get talked about even though they've been eliminated from the playoffs for like a month, over teams such as the Pacers or the Knicks or things of that nature, is just nuts to me. I remember during this regular season when the Cavs and the Thunder had that whole win streak thing happen. they put another game on for NBA Wednesday night instead of putting a game with them on. Arguably the two hottest teams in the league. And they weren't being shown. So it's just those things where it's like, I feel like the NBA can improve on that part too. And maybe that's not NBA, maybe that's an ESPN issue. But just seeing like how some teams get more, coverage than other teams, I feel like is a major, just a disconnect when it comes to fans and then just viewership as well. But again, I feel like that's what made this playoff so interesting too, because you had teams that you normally didn't really hear about like that be put on the big stage and be shown to the world, and then being like, you know what, we got some hoopers, we got some people that can hoop and everything like that. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, hopefully, like I said before, step in the right direction, and this continues to happen next year. Hopefully, next year we see some more teams in the championship, conversation who had not won a championship recently. So, from a viewer though, I enjoyed it. It was a great playoffs. Definitely a lot of great moments in this year's playoffs. I feel like it's way too early for me to give my prediction on who wins the championship next year. So we're just going to leave it at that. But again, to Haliburton, we salute you. Great run. Hope you get better. Yeah, that's what I got for that. Moving on. This is Tuesday. At this point in time that you guys get in this episode, it's the afternoon. But we did have, an NBA trade happen earlier today. Boston Celtics are sending Jrue Holiday back to Portland for Anfernee Simons. Anfernee Simons, and I believe a few draft picks. Yeah, 2 second-round picks. Shout out to Shams for that. But, let's talk about this trade, man. Obviously, Jrue Holiday, he's going back to a team that he was at before Boston traded for him the first time, to now go back to Portland to then for the Celtics to get a player such as Anfernee Simons. I think it's a cool deal. I think it's a nice trade. Anfernee Simons is probably one of the, most underrated players in the league. I feel like people who only had, the luxury of watching Trailblazers games, they understand how good of a player he was. He was under the tutelage of Dame Lillard when Dame was there. He was able to play behind players such as Dame and McCollum and things like that. But let's look at his stats for the 24-25 season. He averaged 19 points a game, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and he shot 42% from the field. I feel like this is perfect for Boston. Knowing Boston and knowing how they run like a well-oiled machine, Boston's going to find a way to make this work. Anfernee Simons on offense is a solid player to have, and on a team where he was arguably the best option, him being able to take a step back and, just play his role on a team without Jason Tatum playing, mind you, is going to be great for Jaylen Brown. I also want to say this too. People have said that Boston next year are going to not be a problem because Tatum is not going to be playing. And yes, they will have a drop off because Tatum is out. I understand that. When your best player goes down, you will have a drop off. That will happen. I still would not sleep on this Boston Celtics team. They can definitely find a way to still win games, and this team is going to be even scarier because the way I see this trade is this. Jrue Holiday, I believe, is about to be 30 years old. Let's check. Jrue Holiday is 35 years old. Anfernee Simons is 26. by doing this trade, Celtics are virtually getting like a little bit younger. You know, Tatum, I believe Tatum is about to be, let's see. Tatum is 27 and Jaylen Brown is 28. By doing this trade, the Celtics are getting younger. And by getting younger, that means that they're going to have more time. Their window is going to be, instead of it being all the way shut, it's going to be cracked a little bit. This trade is going to help them so much because the way I see it is this. I feel like Boston at the end of the season, regardless of whether Tatum got injured against the Knicks series or not, they were going to make a move. And they were going to find a way to maximize those two's, it's Jaylen Brown and Tatum's, window for winning a championship and helping this team continue to be able to compete for years to come. Jrue Holiday is a solid defender. At times, he can stretch the floor and score. Yes, we're not denying that at all. I know it. If you've seen him on the Bucks and you've seen him on the Celtics, you know it as well. But the truth is that Jrue Holiday is also 35 years old. Jrue Holiday, his best years are behind him. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I'm not saying he still can't go out and play, 20 minutes a game and everything like that. I'm not saying that at all. But for what Boston is trying to do, I think they just had to get younger. They had to. Going out and getting a player like Anfernee Simons who averages 19, and I read you his stats already, but it's a great move for Boston. Because when Tatum gets back, I'm telling you that team is going to be scary. Because now the way I see it is this. When that team gets back, starting five is probably going to be Anfernee Simons, Jaylen Brown, Tatum. You're maybe going to have Porzingis at the 4. Or you do Simons, Brown, Tatum, White, Porzingis. That's starting 5. And yeah, you maybe have to fix some stuff with, rotations and the bench and stuff like that. But you can't sit up here and tell me that team's not winning at least 45, 46 games. Maybe even 50. So for me personally, I like the trade. I think that trade happening is going to be a solid trade for the Celtics, and it's going to help them out for years to come, most definitely. Boston's going to be right back in that championship photo, championship picture after next season. They won't be in it this season, but next season, they got it for sure. They got it for sure. And then honestly, I just feel like with Boston, look at moves and stuff like that. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't the only move that happens this offseason. There's a lot of things that Boston can do to help them out as far as maximizing their championship window. And Brad Stevens has already had the makings of a solid coach. Him in the front office, I won't be surprised if he has some more moves under his sleeve. So be on the lookout for that. But, I just want to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know about what you guys think about the trade. Let me know what you guys think about, what, transpired as far as trading happened. And, yeah, do you think this trade was a good trade? Do you think it was a bad trade? Are you in the middle? Do you think Boston's going to be, a better team with this trade happening? And you think they'll be able to compete for a championship in years to come? Or you think they're going to be somewhere in that middle of the pack? They're going to win games, they're going to lose some, but they're not going to ultimately get back to being on top of the NBA world. We'll see. But let me know what you guys' thoughts are. But moving on, we've had a lot of new segments come into the Young Bulls podcast over the course of the years that we've been doing this. And I don't know why I haven't started this new one out, but it's time for us to have a segment called Dinari's Thoughts. And we're going to do this segment every time before the episode concludes, but we're just going to take a break from talking about sports and everything to talking about things that are happening in the world, what's going on right now. To say that these past couple of weeks have been somewhat of I don't even know how to say it. It's just been, if you've been following the news, you know where I'm going with this, but if you haven't, it's just been a lot of things, a lot of bad going on. Obviously, there's been a lot of fighting, a lot of wars. Israel attacking Iran, missiles being deployed. We have countries like the U.S., Donald Trump coming out saying that, he's not trying to get involved. He's not trying to do this, but then he's going to bomb a country. And then he's going to, say that he wants peace after he bombs that said country. And then, look, honestly, I am trying to make just as much sense of everything that's happened, just like the next person, because I still feel like everything that's happened is like, it's not real. And I always go back to what, Trump being in office, again, means for America, means for just this country as a whole and the world. And I remember I said back when the election and everything was going on that having this guy back in office was not going to be good for business. It was not going to be good for us. It's not going to be good for relations with other countries. And I remember I was saying how it's important that people go out and go vote and do the research and make sure that you are informed so that we don't make the same mistake we made the first time. And it's like everything that I said and everything that probably other important, people way more important than me have said about what would happen if Trump got back in office. I mean, you see what's going on, man. You see what's going on. And it's like, honestly, I look at this, man, and it's just like, it's just so disappointing just to see. Like, let's put in perspective. I'm 21. I'm heading into my senior year of college. Now, there's probably a lot of 21-year-olds listening to this. I should not be thinking about whether or not I'm going to be able to live my life after college, like, fully or not, because of what's going on as far as relations with other countries is concerned. The thing about this whole nuclear thing that has really just been, like, bothering me, and not even, like, the thing that bothers me about it is that there were measures that were taken before Trump got in office the first time that ensured that as far as relations with other countries, as far as making sure that other countries were checking on other countries and everything like that. You talk about the nuclear deal and everything, that were in check to ensure that we were, that things like this wouldn't happen, right? That Trump took us out of after he got into the presidency. And it's like, I look at this presidency and all I can really do is laugh, man. That's all I can really do, because it's so nuts and bizarre to me that we really let this guy get back into office a second time around. And it's like, I know I've said this before. I know I've talked about this on numerous occasions, but it's like, we cannot be serious, man. Like, as a country, we cannot be serious, man. It's disheartening. It's sad. Truly. This country used to be a country that, granted, a lot of things in general, just in this country, like, bad has happened in this country. But at least the integrity of this country, what this country stood for, how this country was perceived by other powers, other countries, they used to respect us. They used to, like, look at us and be like, okay, cool. Other countries don't even want to mess with us anymore, man. Other countries laugh at us like we're a joke. And it's like, you look at who we have in office. You look at the stuff that he's signed on for. You look at the things that he has said about, take for example, I believe it was last week, Juventus came to the White House it was like something, I think they won a championship or something. But Juventus, the soccer team, the soccer club, they came to the White House and they basically, they talked with Trump. Trump had them in there, and Trump made an ill-advised, like, he made like a joke, right? He made a joke. And the joke was, he basically said, make sure I have this right so I can quote it. Let's make sure I have the right comment. There we go. So Trump, in his comment, one of the first things that he asked the players when they came to the White House was, could a woman make your team? To which one of the people on Juventus' staff said that, like, they have a really solid, women's team and everything like that. And he made the comment of, the little joke of he's being diplomatic and everything like that. And it's like, no person of power should be doing that. No person of power should be making jokes about whether or not a woman could play for a man's team, which is, It's just something that you don't say to a team. And even, this caused a lot of outrage. A lot of people who, watch soccer, they said that the comment was very insensitive. And I mean, it's nothing that we're not surprised about. When you look at Trump's character, he's made a lot of, insensitive comments. He's made a lot of sick jokes, and his actions and what he's done in this presidency, in these 6 months that he's been in office, has been nothing short of an embarrassment for this country. I want to sit up here and say and be optimistic and say that things will get better before they get worse. But I hate to say it like this, but looking at this presidency and just looking at everything that Trump stands for and what he had, like the people that he has in these positions stand for, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't. If I'm not mistaken, I just want to make sure I have my news visors on right. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe Trump called for a ceasefire, or they said that there was a ceasefire that took place between Iran and Israel. And he said that like, oh, it's going to be no war and all this. And literally, as I'm recording this episode, I checked the news, and the ceasefire was broken. And I'm sitting up here saying to myself, you saw this from a mile away. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, you saw this from a mile away. Like, there's literally things that literally has happened over the past couple of days where I'm sitting up here saying to myself, like, why would you even put us in this situation? Like, I can't even stress it enough. Like, literally, every advisor, every person said, hey, Iran and Israel are fighting. Let's not show allegiance. Let's not fire on Iran. Let's not do this. Let's not do anything like that. That has nothing to do with us. Leave us out of it. And Trump said, smooth brain. You said, let's involve us in this, right? Let's go ahead and involve the U.S. in something that has nothing to do with us. For what? And you know what this involvement does too? This involvement now causes tons of families who have people who are in the military to have to send family members to fight in a war they shouldn't be having to fight for. This causes people on the home front who don't want to stress about this stuff to continue to stress about this and worry. It causes people asking themselves, will I be alive for this? Will I be able to do this? Will I be able to do this? Should I be worried? It causes for more fear-mongering to take place. And now it puts countries and places on high alert when they shouldn't be on high alert. And it's all because you make brash decisions and stupid ass decisions that you feel like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I've done this before. It's like you don't know what you're doing, man. It sucks. I just want to know just like how many more decisions can Trump make for the American people that we have to continue paying for. Trump said that one of his not his biggest gripes, but one of the things that he said when he was going to take office this year was that when I get elected, it's going to be no more wars. And we're already in 6 months in, and we're already about to have another war take shape. It's just sad. A lot of people have been laid off from jobs, work federal jobs. Still have the whole thing with ICE and immigration and how people are getting taken away from families and separated. Just, not even 2 weeks ago, on the countries all over, not countries, excuse me, in like states and cities all over America, we've had, tons of protests speaking on the outrage of, ICE and, just what they've been doing in communities. We've had executive orders, stupid ones at that be signed. We've had appearances such as Elon Musk on Trump's campaign team to then be taken off, to then now him and Elon are beefing and stuff. It makes no sense. We've had the Department of Education be taken away. We've had PBS be taken away. It's just, you think of just everything that could go wrong, it has gone wrong. And it's like, again, all of this, and I can't stress this enough. All of this could have been avoided. All of this could have been avoided if we would have just voted for Kamala. Again, I'm not telling you to sit up here and who to vote for. I'm not sitting up here telling you that, this person's better than that person. But if you would have did your research, which I'm guessing, considering the fact that we're in this situation now, that most people didn't do, you see what we got in office, man. Though for the American people, man, I guess the only thing I really can say, man, is continue to mobilize, continue to protest, continue to speak up on things that you don't think that are, going right in this country. Continue talking to officials, continue, doing things like that, writing letters, and making your voices heard. Because I would hope that somebody eventually catches on and hears that people are not enjoying this presidency. People are not rocking with this at all. And hopefully the people in Congress and whatever can find a way to, impeach the guy, but we've already done that. And I don't know. It's just that I'm sorry for raising my voice, but it's just even wilder because I just realized that we impeached this guy the last time he was in office. He has a federal charge, and we got him back in office again. Like, we really did that. We really said, no, one time wasn't enough. We need the sequel. Will LeBron say, thank you for taking a ride with me. You know what? Here's 2 more for y'all. That's what we did with this guy's presidency. We did this. Like, wow, bro. Like, look, it's a shame. It's disappointing. Am I surprised? No. But again, hopefully things get better. To everyone who's been affected by everything that's been taking place right now, it didn't have to be this way. It's literally, the families that are going to have to send their kids off to, fight, who are in service and everything like that. Hearts go out to you and everything, and hopefully things get better before things get worse. But that was a long final thought. Had a lot to say. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Young Bulls Podcast. We're probably going to do another episode Thursday. We're going to talk more about the trade and the NBA draft. I'm also going to possibly have an appearance by my cousin. He's been wanting to get on the podcast for a minute. Shout out to my boy Joel's, but he's been wanting to get on the podcast for a minute. And yeah, hopefully we do another one this week. If not this week, we'll do one for sure next week. Don't worry, I won't take another 3-week hiatus, especially with everything that's going on now. I feel like now more than ever, I need to be back doing this whole podcasting thing. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. It's been another Young Bulls Podcast special. Episodes presented by Legacy Jersey Shops and YBPod.com. YBPod.com, everything Young Bulls Podcast all in one place. And Legacy Jersey Shops, your one-stop shop for every soccer jersey that you want, known to man. So make sure you guys go check that out. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Be safe.